Hello and welcome. My name is Eli, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of SalesFit. I'm here with my dear friend Jocko from Winning by Design. Jocko, say hey.
How are you folks doing out there? Hope everybody's healthy and looking forward to a fun couple of days with the family where appropriate.
Can you believe it's Christmas next week? I can't believe it, and we're getting ready for 2021.
I can't believe it, but I'm quite happy for a number of reasons that this year is coming to an end. Let's put this one to rest, please.
Let's do that. And so, Jocko, listen, we're here to talk about virtual selling. We're here to talk about what's going on with virtual selling. I got to ask the question. Is it a fad? Is it here to stay? What's going on with virtual selling?
Well, I love for you all in the chats to contribute some of what you think it is. Do you think really that this was a fad or is it here to stay? From the perspective of what we're saying is, look, virtual selling is here to stay for the long term. Doesn't mean that in-person selling will no longer play a role, but I think what we're going to see is that the priority of in-person versus virtual has flipped to with the priority being virtual selling, and that like we only see in-person is going to be an exception in the more and more of an exception in the future.
Here to stay, here to stay, here to stay. Are you watching the chat? Here to stay.
And specifically for the early qualifying stage, as we're going to talk about, I think in a second, is we're going to point out there's certain tasks that are really hard to do, and how would we do those in the virtual world?
Absolutely. And virtual selling. So it's here to stay. I love it. And Jocko, you are the definitive expert when it comes to virtual selling, digital selling, remote selling. You're the expert. We all come to you for advice, and thank you. So something changed this year, right? We shifted, we became remote instantly, and virtual selling today means something than what it used to mean, at the beginning of the year. Can you kind of talk about the transition we went through this year a little bit?
Yeah, so what you see is that historically, and we were, because our hand was forced, unfortunately, because of the situation, we used our standard processes and our standard meetings and simply translate them into virtual meetings. So instead of meeting the person in person, we now would do it on a Zoom or on any other form of virtual software. We would do that. We didn't change the process. We didn't optimize it. We just took out the 2 weeks of travel notice, the day of travel, and we say it's like, oh, we're going to meet online. Now, what you saw is that this kind of started to take a negative turn, coming summer. People started to discover their backgrounds, and before we know it, end of summer, people have waving palm trees as their background, and they started to take liberty of what this virtual selling was and how cool all this could be. I believe that what we're going to see starting 2021, we have to let that go. We have to waving palm trees and funky backgrounds. We have to let that go, and we have to say, like, look, this is now a work environment. Given, and I want to be honest here, we got to give we got to yield to people who are forced into certain locations and have kids and stuff like that. That is completely okay. I just want to let go of the gimmicky nature of that. We got to become professional. And I think what we're going to see in 2021 is the shift towards a more professional online environment. And that can include and should include things like working from the location that you're given, plus your kids can interrupt you at any point in time, or your cat for that matter.
So virtual selling is more than changing your backgrounds. It's even more than learning how to use a Zoom or a WebEx or a Ring or whatever system that you're using. So take us. Let's break this down. I think we should look at the buyer's journey, because the buyer's journey has changed dramatically, right, Jocko? Like it's forever changed.
It has, and what we see is that what is the main difference here these days? What I want you all to notice is the impact of time. If I go back, let's say a year to 2 years ago, 9 to 18 month sales cycles were common enterprise-based sales cycle. And I'm just picking the enterprise segment because it applies across multiple segments. Today, we are seeing that, like 6 to 9 months is quite a common sales cycle for enterprise. 3 to 6 months is quite common even. So if you think right now, is companies right now are in the market for buying solutions, like for March, April, May next year, maybe for the summer if you think about educational institutions, but they're not here for buying for early 2022. That means that that sales cycle has compressed. And the challenge that we see is that many organizations, that the sales organizations are not yet capable of thinking in that new kind of dimension of time. They are actually, here it is, Eli, they are sometimes delaying the sale and not stepping in. The buyer wants to buy faster, but it's the seller who's delaying the sale. We
Huh.
see that occur every now and then.
What's an example? How does a seller delay the sale?
Okay, a seller can delay the sale in the following. Customer says, I want, like customer says, can you demo me the product? Seller says, no, I can't. Why? Historically, you know pretty well, you separate the diagnose and the demonstration. Let me first learn it. Customer may ask, what's the price? Historically, sellers are separating providing the price from providing and understanding the need, because then you can do it.
Yeah.
Today, you got to jump in on that. You got to be able in a discovery call to give the client a quick demo and use that demo to diagnose their needs. So if you say, we'll do first a discovery call and 2 weeks from now we do the demo when you compile your team, you're delaying yourself 2 weeks from now. So
Right.
that is a way on what we nowadays can modernize and say we bring the team together.
Yeah. So impact, you talked about impact. You talked about shortening sales cycles. You talked about going from 18 month to 9 month, from 9 month to 3 month. So talk more about impact and time, and your whole methodology, the science of selling, is incredible. It's incredible, and it's you're teaching people how to sell faster and better. So talk more about impact. If I'm a chief revenue officer, I'm a VP sales, why do I care about virtual selling when it comes to impact?
Yeah. And like just to set the record straight, when you say it's my methodology or the winning by design methodology, I sometimes feel odd for the following reason. This is what we're doing is we're not making it up. We're essentially repurposing what we're learning from the field. So when I say, like the winning by design methodology, it's essentially what we have seen other sellers do successfully in the field. And we are trying to share that, across as many people as we can. I'll give you an example. Think of me wanting to get to an executive. A very common thing that the salesperson wants, they want to get to the executive in the sale. And so they are on the discovery call, they're determining, and lo and behold, they determine that the CMO, CRO, CFO is the decision maker on the other end. And they're trying to get to a meeting with that. So they're asking the person on the other side, hey, can that person join the next meeting? And let's say that they get to an agreement on that. That person will then join the next meeting, but they have to schedule it. The CRO is hard to get. We're talking about 3-4 weeks of scheduling over the current holidays. We're talking about, in the current situation, a meeting somewhere mid to late January, 4 weeks to 6 weeks from now. Here's what you do with virtual selling. I'm thinking, instead, if I'm now with the same buyer, I'm in that same call, but I'm not asking, when I can meet with that person. I'm asking the current, person on the other side of the call, my coach, to say like, now, your CRO, may I ask, what does he or she care about? And they give me 2 or 3 points, and I'm write those down. These are the 2 or 3 points. I ask a few more questions to make sure I know that CRO. Post the call. I'm recording a short video, 4 or 5 minute video. In that video, I highlight the services, and then I speak to the CRO as if he or she is watching. And I say, Marianne, as Dan just described to me, these 2 or 3 things were important to you. Let me give you a quick demo of that. And in the recorded video, I'm addressing that CRO and touching on those points. That allows me, when I send the video afterwards and share that with my client, they can now share that video inside the organization. And while my competitor is trying to set up a meeting to meet with Marianne at the end of January, Marianne over Christmas may watch my video, which I will highlight in the email, say for Marianne, at 2 minutes and 35 seconds, I address her questions.
Yeah.
Now what I see, Marianne is watching my video. We are still meeting end of January, but we've already progressed the sales cycle significantly. We already can talk about different topics.
You taught me something a few months back, and you said, the world is entering a phase of meaningless selling. You just explained meaningless selling, asynchronous selling. Can you talk more about that? Why is that such a new way for people today?
It is a new way because we, as human beings, we gravitate to want personal contact. We gravitate to want to see what the shoes are like that they are wearing, which we can't see, right? We gravitate to wanting to learn more about each other through physical presence. What we are noticing And like looking at, I right now I can tell you the following. If my kids are, when they are socially engaged, they're sitting in their bedroom looking at their phone more than they are. Their way of engaging with others. In the beginning, we frowned upon that. How can that be? Well, if I see my son, playing his Call of Duty games, he's the team leader, he knows 4 or 5 folks, he's socially super engaged. We see that engagement simply is changing, and so too is the engagement between the buyer and the seller. Every time I got to meet in person in order to facilitate that process, I got to get the buyer has to reserve a room. And I don't know if for those of you who've sold enough in person, you know that the rooms were running low in every company everywhere. It became a real problem, right? Meeting in the hallway, blah, 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 stuff like that. You got security best practices that you need. Sometimes you cannot get to the front gate, the badge, the issue, the parking, like all these things did become quite a bottleneck. But most importantly, we were telling our buyer, you need to be at the office at the point in time we're going to meet with you. And I've been more than in one meeting where I was the only one actually at the facility, and the 3 people were dialing in remote, and I'm sitting there like I'm in your meeting room, and they go like, oh my gosh, we didn't know this was an in-person meeting. And so what we start to see is more and more are we getting accustomed in this world that business meetings don't all need to be in person. There's still a benefit, but we are progressing rapidly that you can see who I am and my personality. You can learn if I'm authentic or not, and you don't need to see my shoes in order to determine that.
No, I love it. These are great examples, Jocko. Are you watching the chat feed? Are you seeing all the great comments? Are salespeople gonna go away as well? Or that's an interesting comment, and Dan has taken and responded to that. I
And I don't think so. I think, look, and I don't want to lead with, well, I'll lead with the conclusion. Folks, what we are facing right now, we believe that in 2021, as we said, sales will be an essential function. We are like the fire departments during the fires, like, like obviously the healthcare workers ongoing in the middle of it. We are becoming an essential function to kickstart and to keep this economy in motion, to help the companies out there. So I feel totally that as a marketing and sales, no longer are we like a secondary function to a product. We're the primary function. We are, the spotlight is on us.
Absolutely, right. We still need to solve problems. We still need to diagnose problems. We still need to prescribe. We still need to gain consensus. We still need to help organizations gain consensus so they can make decisions to solve their problems, right? That just doesn't happen on a website. You got to enable your buyer to buy.
Yeah, I think that, like you see this, for example, with call recording technology. And this is no poo-poo on call recording technology. We love it. We engage it. When we listen when you listen or when you read someone's transcript, that is not what sales is about. It's not about how many times the word pricing was mentioned in the call. It's important. It's a factor. So we definitely want to know that. We definitely want to learn what it was said. But it's often in the form of a conversation where you really hear a client say something, right? And so we teach, for example, a technique. If somebody says, look, I really want to increase my revenue by $2 to $3 million, but the dashboards are giving me, like a headache these days, and I do not know exactly where they're coming from. Most people would focus on that increase to $2 to $3 million, right? Say like, hey, that's the rational impact. How are you looking to achieve that? We do that too, but we write down headache, dashboards. Then 2, 3, 4 minutes later in the virtual world, just like I see you right now,
Yeah.
I will go back and say, Eli, what stood out to me is 2, 3 minutes ago, you said that the dashboards were giving you a headache. May I ask why? I don't need to be in a room with a person to do that. I just need to make sure that the modern seller provides full value on like writing down notes, taking good notes, looking at the body language, at your facial expression, learning how to switch off your own video on a Zoom call or on a call to make sure that you don't keep looking at yourself, but that you start looking at your audience. Like these are very common and basic skill sets that once you implement them, you immediately up-level your sales organization 5, 10, 15%.
So let's do something. Let's go through the buyer's journey. Let's take a simple buyer's journey where I think let's break it down into 4 basic steps, right? There's the let's just call it prospecting. Well, that's the seller's journey. Let's talk about the first step is awareness and education. The second step is more about diagnosing their problem. The third step is about kind of a solutioning and prescribing a solution. The last one is kind of gaining commitment, right? If we look at those 4 areas, let's get really tactical because there's a lot of questions on here. Like, what does a good demo discovery look like? Let's go through and give a couple very tactical examples. In the first phase, when you're making that initial contact, when you're either prospecting or your buyer is coming to you out of interest, what are some ways that we can up level what we're doing in the context of virtual selling? Let's take that first pillar first, that first stage first.
Okay. First things first, as basic as it seems, I don't need the palm trees behind you. I want you to look professional. I don't want to look at a doctor who's going to diagnose me while he's just coming off a beach carrying so first things first, look professional in an online world, right?
Yeah.
That's one. Number two, when you and I are working together, I want you to diagnose. So for example, if I'm doing this, right? And like I'm doing this, I'm launching here, blah, blah, blah. And you hear me type, and I look at you and says, Eli, don't mind me. I'm typing and taking notes. I don't want you to think I'm not paying attention. I'm actually doing the opposite. Right. I'm taking notes on it. Okay. So now every time I do this, you see me like, oh, he's taking notes. He's listening. Yeah. Right. These are simple things that when you outline, the customer feels you're truly interested in what I say. You care. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask to a session of diagnose. For example, let's say it's about how many people work in your company.
Yeah.
I can ask 2 questions. I can say how many people.
Diagnose is all about discovery, asking questions, listening, and you're doing it virtually.
You're doing it virtually. But now what I'm doing is I'm enhancing it with the research I've already done. So I can say, for example, I can share my screen, bring up your LinkedIn profile and says, on LinkedIn, it says that you currently have 24 people in your sales team. Is that still correct? And they go like, no, like that is. But now you'll see I'm engaging directly because I got the screen content, right? I got that as an extra asset. The other thing that we need to realize is that because of the medium, our nose to nose difference between us and all others is equal. So everybody can look me in the eyes, everybody. So they all see me. It's not like somebody sitting at the back end of the table taking notes. Then what I can do, we can very effectively use the chat channel. Yep. And we start helping content. On the chat channel, we can now actually have sidebar conversations between 2 people. So we see that having a secondary person on the call is super important in online meetings. Share the content because it takes.
I love asking a question in an executive stakeholder meeting and getting everyone to answer stuff in a chat. Not even using the poll, just engaging and getting feedback.
It's exactly.
And it's still going great even today. I want to jump in. Brian has a question, and either of you, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Many customer meetings, the customers do not turn on their camera.
Right.
Thoughts on inclining them to do so?
Great question. And first of all, before we answer it, thank you, Brian. Dan Smith, Chief Learning Officer at Winning by Design. Thanks for jumping on. We're so excited. We're going to be sharing how people can action and bring all these great tips to life in their organizations. But there's one tip I have, right? I think first of all, when you're sending that calendar invite out, I think listing in the calendar invite, this is a video meeting, and just setting the expectation ahead of time that it's a video meeting. You can also set when you send out the agenda reminder, you can say, hey, here's the link, and if you prefer not to be on video, let me know and we can do a mobile call. That way the expectations are set and you're being professional and you're setting that pre-meeting agenda. Jocko, what are tips you have for that question from Brian?
I love to start a conversation with saying, folks, I love to see you, to know who I am doing business with this morning. And the reason why is because everybody realizes if you do business with each other, you got to look each other in the eye, even if it's for 2 minutes. And so that's my point. Can you send the video on even for 2 to 3 minutes? I just want to look in the eye and learn, what the person who I'm doing business with today. And it's very common in Western practices that occurs. Second, you can make it fun. I dressed up for you today, right? And you can give it a little spiel in that. But the most important is what you said, Eli. Set the expectation up front. This is a video call. Now, I don't mind that people switch off halfway. I sometimes happen. I don't actually mind some people sit in an environment that their kids are passing behind them and they choose to switch off the camera during that. Absolutely okay. Absolutely. The other thing that is good to mention in the invite is that we all are part of life. So any interrupting kids, cats, dogs, barking, and so on
Good,
are
right?
encouraged and are completely welcomed to the nature of the call, so that people know that the common sense here is normalcy is okay.
Yeah.
Again, what I'm trying to shy away from is the abnormality when we start creating and turning these funky backgrounds on, right? That's what I'm trying to avoid.
No, it's great. It's great. So we're taking people through a journey. Keep the questions coming, and Dan, we're gonna show people how they're gonna be able to train and coach their teams with all the great tips and video lessons you've created. But before we go there, so we're talking about tactical tips in the buyer's journey, right? We talked about readiness. We talked about ways to set up your computer. We talked about ways to set up your camera. We talked about the meeting setup. We talked about how to do discovery, ask questions, using engagement. Let's get in. Let's move from diagnose, Jocko, and let's move into the phase of prescribing. How can we prescribe solutions asynchronously in a meetingless virtual selling world?
So when you are describing asynchronous solutions, you generally need to match that to the impact the client wants. You want to say is like, look, with this product. Now I explained this, you may have heard me before, it's like, what is the difference between value and impact? Value is when you're buying a car with the promise it will take you to work. Impact is when you buy a ride share like an Uber who actually delivers you to work. What customers today want to learn about is impact. What they want to see you demonstrate is the impact what you're doing on their business.
Yep.
Now, I can demonstrate that impact. For example, if you have a great product, many of us would say, oh, I would bring up that product, like and demonstrate it. That's a way. Another way is opening up a Google Sheet or a spreadsheet, and you open it up and you start calculating. May I ask 24 people you're doing this?
Real time. You just open up the document, share the screen, and you're typing in front of them.
Typing in front of them, blank document.
Boom.
What we've noticed, and this is key, that the document is blank because it feels more authentic. The moment in time that it has a pre-populated template in there and you step through it step by step, as Dan teaches and has learned over time, that creates, it feels like there was a trap set for the attendee. So you need to start blank. You need to know how to build a sheet. It needs to feel like both of us are working on a whiteboard elbow to elbow because our noses are pointing the same direction. So don't turn it into a speaking engagement, turn it into an elbow to elbow whiteboard experience.
Working with your champion, working with your stakeholders, working with your exec. I love the white sheet. You're so right. Don't open up a template because then I feel like you're reading a script. It feels robotic. It doesn't feel authentic and it's not solving my problems. Beautiful.
Exactly. And then often you find at the end, even the simplest Google sheet, they ask you like, would you mind sharing me that? No, of course not. And so, even if we do proposals, we nowadays recommend that you share your proposals in early draft where legally allowed. Make sure that not every company allows this, but where legally allowed, we recommend you share proposals early on.
Yeah.
Don't wait for the finished product, turn it into a PDF and then share it. Already engage the client. You see that they start commenting on it. What do you mean with this? And as you build your proposal, your solution, their comments are immediately being addressed and answered. Therefore, by the time it's released, it's not like throw it over the wall and see where it lands, right? They already have, and often what we see is they start sharing it internally. You see which that document is shared with. Again, not all industries allow for this form of document sharing, and we need to be careful that we don't break security protocols here. But where possible, this provides a quick acceleration on that entire proposal cycle.
Amazing, right? So we've talked about, these are all great tips on how you can prescribe solutions collaboratively with your champions. Let's give a couple examples on gaining commitment, right? How do we gain commitment with our stakeholders in a virtual selling world?
Yes. Commitment, as in, what you'll find is the commitment is the outcome of everything that happened before. If you see the commitment as a separation and a separate task, you'll find that negotiation and, on terms and price become an issue. What we find is that in order to gain that commitment, if you shared that document, by the time you get there, you are essentially have already agreed. What many people forget when you are in that closing cycle, most salespeople have lost track of how many times they conceded on something. what we recommend in your proposal, and because you're in a digital world, that you maintain an accurate record of your conceits or your gifts, whatever your term is, your trades that you made. Like they may have said, well, I noticed that you only currently are doing whatever 10 licenses, but I need 12 and I need to be rotating. You put it in the notes. The question was, answered was. By the time, therefore, you reach your commitment, the track record, because everything is digitally recorded in place, it is just more suited. Where we find that most salespeople historically gain that commitment is it is an activity that happens somewhere between the meeting ended and the walk to the elevator. That is a common like feel where you're like, something good happened, right? Or the walk to the front door. How do you do that? Two things. Your coach, you need to place a call before the call, and you need to place a call after the call.
Yep.
You have to understand that your coach internally is essentially the person who has to sell you internally. So his or her success depends on you. So the moment in time that you feel comfortable to calling that person up front to say like, look, I know we have 5 people in the call, how would you like me to address it? And afterwards call, did I help you correctly, and get the feedback? You are mimicking that relation, that walk from the elevator, from the meeting room to the elevator, where so much often of the closing takes place. But it's got to be a physical one-on-one person call. It doesn't have to be a Zoom session, but can be a call.
Yeah. These are great tips, right? We could go on and on and on and on and on all day long, all week long. I know Winning by Design runs workshops, and you're doing amazing work with so many companies and so many sales professionals around the world. And we literally could go deep. And so I wanna kind of take us somewhere now, Jocko and Dan. I think a few months back, Jocko, you and I started talking and brainstorming and thinking, how are we going to help companies get ready for this new wave of selling, and how are we going to do it so they can adjust their sales motions and their behaviors in real time, and we came up with an amazing solution.
Yeah.
And what do you think?
Yeah. The problem was, and as I called you, here's the issue we had. Look, all of us are going to go run into January and are being focused with SKOs that need to take remote. These SKOs normally had, included in their training sessions. A day, half a day, 2 half days, and so on. So what we're now seeing is that this entire market is running into January, February with semi-broken plans on how to do SKO. Well, obviously we have now all committed, we cannot do it in person any longer, right? So that decision has been made over the past week. So now how are we going to train people at a time that they need it the most? Never before did marketing, sales, and customer success organization needed this SKO as much as they're going to need it in January, February. They need it for motivational purpose, direction setting, but they also need to learn a new skill set. Where previously they were talking about the new sales company training, the new way of closing, or the new way of XYZ. They literally need this. But we don't have a scalable way to deliver it right now because there's too many companies out there. So we cannot fly trainers everywhere. Second, because we're all remote, we see an opportunity. Why not say like, hey, our SKO needs to focus on motivation, getting everybody excited about the new year, and use the online nature, that of saleshood, delivery cycle, use that to deliver training in a way that is better digested. Look, let's be honest, 2 4-hour sales cycles, training sessions spread over 2 days had a low retention rate anyway. Now, what if we could, in January, deliver this great experience, small training bites, start simple, get a progression, that in a scalable way, we have that. And obviously we wanted to share that with an audience to go like, look, this is available. This is right now, we can do this. And so as you may recall, we started shooting content overnight to address the need of this audience.
And it's incredible. So you just got a taste of some of the virtual selling tips based on the sales as a science methodology that Winning by Design has created, working with the best companies on the planet, looking at data-driven approach to sales training and sales coaching. We've taken all their great tips and best practices, and we've created an amazing online coaching membership. And let me show it to you, and then we're going to have Dan talk about it because it's amazing. And let me just present, and here we go. And so we're so excited with the Remote Selling Mastery Coaching Membership. You heard Jocko just share a little bit of tips and tricks and insights, but we've got a complete library of videos, role play exercises, coaching huddles, curated learning paths. You can now take all this great content. You can do coaching and you can correlate, and we're going to give you a complete closed loop system so you can change the behaviors of their teams and get them closing deals faster. It's on demand. It's delivered virtually. It's there's nothing out there like it, Jocko and Dan. And you can see here the thoughtfulness that went into the topics. We touched on them briefly, right? There is a readiness pillar, background staging. Look how amazing Jocko and Dan's backgrounds look. Look how professional they're coming across. They're going to teach everyone. They're going to teach all of you and your teams how to come and show up to meetings just like that. Then we're going to go deep, and you can start teaching your teams how to be better at prospecting, diagnosing, prescribing, and gaining commitment. So I'm going to stop sharing. Let's just leave this up for a second. And Jocko, anything you want to add on this before I have Dan come up and share a little bit about the science behind it?
Well, Jody just triggered me, enormously, because it's spot on, Jody. You nailed it. And her question was, how do you handle the resistance of seasoned sales professionals who believe in person is the only thing that works? And my answer to that was a provocative, you don't. And what I mean with that is obviously, like I tried to provoke you there, Jody, but you don't go up against it. There's no need. It's too hard of a battle, and like they are. So instead, what you're going to do, you're going to work with the people on the team who do want this, and you let them sell their colleagues. In the end, and I have to say, and I've over the years worked with phenomenal sales professionals. I think several of them have had write-ups of closing $100 million plus deals. All of them, all the true sales pros, when they get training like this, they're front row. So anybody that's resisting in generally is not a true pro. Right? That, in my opinion, that they will become a pro, but they have some resistance. A true sales professional will embrace any new technique, will be the first technology, already installed it, already edited it, and customized it. So what you do is you bring on their colleagues, and now you get the FOMO, fear of missing out.
Love it.
And then that's the way of tackling that.
And we're enabling companies now with this unique offering, with the remote selling mastery coaching membership. Now that it's available online, you can curate a learning journey and a coaching journey for your teams, and your teams can get in and they can watch videos on their own. There's nothing out there like it. And I want to invite Dan Jocko. Is that all right? Are we ready?
Oh, we're ready for Dan.
All right. Hello, everyone.
I'm going to stop sharing because if you're a sales customer, you'll be able to activate this immediately this month inside of your system. And if you're interested in learning more, you can go to our website. But Dan, there's so much here. Look at all these great topics. Look at all these great tips. And we can't even get it all in one slide. Can you talk about the work and everything that went into building this amazing, unique library and some of the thinking behind it? Give us some of the background.
To be straight up, I think we're in a very interesting moment where it feels like everything is different. And the last thing that I think most salespeople want here is another meeting or something that feels like going back to school. And this changed completely how I'm thinking about sharing insights or helping people actually take the important tips away. And we've condensed all these videos down to 2-minute to 5-minute max videos, but tried to focus a lot more on examples. So instead of just say like, here's the concept, here's how you could say something, it's let's break this down, role play it out. Here's a video example to support a lot of these things. Now, one of my favorite part about working with you, Eli, is also focusing on the checklist, is breaking it down into super actionable chunks, because 70% of learning anything comes from actually doing it. And so that is going to be the key insight on how to apply this. Now, I want to comment one thing. You commented on how great Jocko and our backgrounds look with like the green screen and the black backdrop and like being able to write on it in real time. You do not need to do this in order to be a professional salesperson. Now, obviously that's the profession that I'm trying to like dive deeper into. So I've overinvested in my studio setup, but everybody can just make subtle tweaks. Like change your lighting around. Like you and I were working on videos earlier this week, and it's like, try the angle light over here and see how that looks. Oh, that looks better. Let's run with it. And
this is a natural background. I'm not, it's a great thing. Like you don't have to over-engineer, but just show up professionally and show up professionally. You know, Dan, It's been such a pleasure working with both of you and the entire Winning by Design team. And Dan, you're Chief Learning Officer, so you are really reinventing sales training and adding the sales as a science. So it's amazing. I'd like to show people, if I can, just a little snippet of what this looks like, so that way they can appreciate what it looks like. And so here I am. I'm just going to. I'm inside Sales Hood. I'm in the library, and everything we just talked about. Here's the sales as a science methodology explained, remote selling readiness, all the tips, over 40 videos, prospecting, prescribe, diagnosing, gaining commitment. Let's go look at one of these. So Dan, you talked about short little videos, instructional tips. We're going to guide your teams with technical setups, checklists on lights, camera, action, dress code examples. This gives you a sense of how this experience is uniquely delivered in Sales Hood, and you can take your teams on a coaching journey, so that way they can activate their virtual selling mastery inside of their interactions. Dan, looks great, huh?
I love it. And I think the design that we had too is there's going to be some elements that if you want to learn it front to back, you can, but you can also pick and choose the things that are most relevant to you. For example, if dress code piqued your interest, you're like, what do you mean dress code in virtual selling? And you're going to learn that maybe changing out of your daytime jammies for an important call is appropriate, but maybe for an internal call, you can be a little bit more casual. But being aware how you look is an important evolution about how we start taking this remote selling to be a little bit more professional.
And Dan, you bring up a great point, right? So the library is available. We're providing curated coaching huddles. We're providing recommendations on learning paths for your teams. But guess what? Your teams, your sellers, your customer success folks, they may want to get in. And what are they going to want to do? They're going to want to just watch individual videos on their own, so they can browse the library, search the library, and get motivated by some of Dan and team's amazing ideas and amazing tips. I'm going to stop sharing. And this does work like Netflix. It's a membership. So what happens every quarter, Dan? Every quarter.
The good news is that we're always trying to keep it relevant and keep it updated. And so there's some really powerful examples that we'll use. I think one of the newest techniques that we're trying to share is this idea of meeting list demos or meeting list prospecting. And I have a short clip that we could share to give a sense of what the content looks like. Would that be appropriate?
That's so appropriate. Thank you.
Okay. Let me pull this up. So in this video, I'm sharing a little bit of insight with how I'm co-teaching with Mia, who's one of our fantastic certified trainers. And what we're doing, and I'm going to skip a little bit ahead, is that we have an example of Olivia, who is doing video prospecting. So she shows us and breaks it down. And then we have Mia and I just going through a little bit of observations, what goes well and what maybe could be improved for next time. So let me play a little bit of this clip.
So they make the understanding of, yes, Mia did her research and this is for me.
I love that. So you're putting an image in the email, and that image is showing something that's about the client, the customer that you're reaching out to, that captures their attention. Like, why is my LinkedIn photo in this email? Or why is my company in this video? So that's a really captivating way of getting somebody to click play. And why don't we just jump over and see how Olivia did this? She sent this video over to a prospect after they connected on LinkedIn. Check out how she started.
Hey Alex, I'm Olivia and I work at Hyatt. Thanks for the connection. The reason you're receiving this video from me today is I know that.
So let me stop there. Just as a quick insight, we are trying to deliver this in a way that's just don't take our word for it, watch in action, make your own opinion on it and improve on it from what you see. Because we definitely haven't figured it all out, but this is a really good start. And if you're just saying hey, you know what, I want to watch something and take action right away, that's how we're trying to deliver this content to you.
So Winning by Design has taken the buyer's journey, applied a layer of virtual selling mastery to it, created all these great videos, collaborated with Sales Hood to create engaging role play, collaborative exercises where teams can now learn, practice, coach, apply to real deals, and continue getting better and better and better at virtual selling and doing it all virtually. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Here's what I think historically has been the challenge that we need to solve, and particularly in 2021.
Yeah.
Historically, I was trained in January, then somewhere along the year, the year went well, and then in December we achieved success. And we look back and say, did we remember this was training? No. We never benefited from the recurring element and the insertion of new relevant items. Like in summer, things may be different. Why does training only happen during one time of the year? What we believe, and it's not because of winning by design or because of sales who delivering this. I don't want to feel like, oh my gosh, like we did. I want them to think is like, look, I have a problem that's recurring. I have a problem every month, every quarter, every whatever. But I did not have a solution that came back to me every month, every quarter. I did not have, hey, the current, whatever, the latest news last week was this, the flights have canceled there, that may have changed business. If that happens, if something of significance happened, why don't I get within like 24 hours, 48 hours, an updated training that says, folks, this has happened in the market. I just want you to realize here's a training on how you deal with that. Like why does, do I have to wait till January?
Yeah.
That's the mindset. Historically, the problem is this. Historically, we think that when we think of training, like Dan said earlier, we think of being in a classroom. And therefore, every year when we get retrained, we're feeling like we are set back a year. That's not, like we're looking way more at something practical. Give me something I can use today. Oh, the new hip thing is this. Wait, gosh forbid it becomes TikTok, right? And no, we're not believers in YouTube video or LinkedIn video and stuff like that. We believe like everything needs to be like tested first to work. Well, that is a way more scalable approach, and that's a thing where we believe the market is ready for. That's where Dan and I are passionate about. And like Eli, you have a vehicle that has access to the folks on the call down here who connect that and say like, I have the need. You're the like folks, all of us together, we can solve this. None of us singly can solve this. We all need to work together to solve this. And oh, by the way, that includes us learning from the customers in February what is not working, so we can come back in the third week of February or the first week of March and say like, hey, updated, revised, here it is. Why can't we learn that way? What is wrong with that, right? That's what we are trying to go for.
Folks, we're going to keep it fresh. I love the quality. I love the quality of what you showed, Dan and Jocko, like the just what your team has created here and what we have together is just so unique. And there's a fire truck on the street going by me, so hopefully it's not too loud, but they're also excited. But Dan, really, like I've seen a lot of sales training videos over the years, and the way that you are teaching, showing, applying, and having diversity of people and points of view in a contained 3 to 4 minute video is money. And folks have already given us amazing feedback that they love it, and they can't wait to get their hands on the rest of it. So super exciting, and super grateful for the partnership. And I hope what we've done is we've given everyone some perspective on what's happening in the world today around virtual selling. Jocko is a master, Dan is a master, and we're here just trying to give back because we want to help elevate the sales profession. We want to help elevate the cultures of sales organizations so they can all make it through this time together. And this is why we do what we do. We want to help each of you be the best that you can be. And that's why we partner together. So we can deliver the best of winning by design with the best of saleshood at scale in your organizations, at your kickoffs, in your QBRs, in your weekly meetings. And we're here for you. And we're here for you.
If I may add to that, Eli, look, what you and I spoke about last night, and where, like, this is the time that salespeople, and I'll use sales in this case, I can apply it. This is the time that we as sales professionals, we are called into action. We cannot sit on the sideline and let the farm workers put food on the table while wearing masks and working through their issues, while the healthcare industry is trying to overcome mental issues because they're full on the strain. We need to pull our weight, and our weight cannot be, let's do what we did last year the same way, with a little swag. We need to adjust as quickly as we can as well. Every time we don't meet in person, we don't get on an airplane, we are avoiding any issues. We are contributing. Every time that we are putting food on the table to a sale made or to a purchase made, folks, that not only put food on the table of, so to speak, my seller's family, not only at the companies, but also at the buyers and the customers they serve. We right now are in 2021, as the vaccine takes shape, The focus will shift on, will the economy stay afloat? Can we recuperate as quickly as possible? And that is in our hands. And for that, we need a new modern approach, like we have the same, like everything else going on, and it's right there in front of us. We've been using it all along. All we now need to become is professional at it.
Yes, I love it. Jocko and Dan, we're getting amazing feedback. I'll read this last comment. Excellent webinar. Proper sales professionals who understand professional selling, game changing. This is game changing what we're doing. And I believe it. Dan, any final words you want to share with everyone listening in now and in the future?
I'm very inspired with the message that Jocko is sharing. I feel that the sales profession in the old school sense was in it for the salesperson. How do I maximize my money? But when we change that mindset about we're helping provide solutions for clients that also help their company and their families, this really does match that we're all in it together. So the things that we're teaching in this class or that we're trying to share, it's not revolutionary. It's just applying it in an easy and new fashion. And so don't try and change everything all at once. Realize that this remote selling techniques, these are all skills. Just learn one thing, apply it, practice it. If it works, keep it. If it doesn't, try the next thing. And so that type of repetition and learning from each other and sharing with each other, that's what we're hoping that this helps instill. So thank you for having us today.
Amen. That was amazing. I love it. I'm all in. And thank you everyone for listening in to today's amazing session with our dear friends at Winning by Design. Jocko and Dan, thank you very much. And virtual selling, let's take it on together in 2021, everyone.
I got a song wrapped up. Here we go.
Go.
Thank you, everyone. See you. Goodbye. Bye.